In the name of God, the most gracious, the most compassionate, police officers, dear attendees, may peace and blessings of God be upon you. It's a pleasure to extend to you all the greeting and appreciation. Allow me at the beginning to ask you to stand up for a minute for the souls of the martyrs of Egypt and the martyrs of Palestine. Please be seated. The great people of Egypt, today we celebrate the 72nd anniversary of the Police Day. This great day where the heroes of the courageous Egyptian police stood up to defend the pride and the dignity of their country in Ismailia in 1952. They gave their life as a very expensive price for the Egyptian national pride, knowing that protecting the security of the country and the citizens is a great purpose. Those heroes, what those heroes gave to their countries on that day, 72 years ago, was turned into an energy of a challenge in the heart of this country to be forever young, making it closer and closer to its Independence Day. The sacrifices of policemen in Ismailia was a motive for the national dignity, as well as the sacrifices of the armed forces and from the Egyptian people to face the terrorism in the past years should take its position on the wall of glory and honor for the country. These sacrifices are very appreciated, and we all take a great responsibility to honor the generosity of those martyrs with many sacrifices and achieve their dream of a proud Egypt and make their dream come true for the upcoming generations. Ladies and gentlemen, the memory of today comes in a very critical time where our region faces unprecedented challenges and Egypt faces a very dangerous regional reality with international conditions that the world hasn't witnessed for very long decades. Our position in the latest developments witnessed by the region in Gaza Strip were very clear from the very beginning, based on a deep feeling of historic responsibility and the humanitarian responsibility also for Egypt to stand beside their Palestinian brothers. This role Egypt will continue playing with nobility, honor, and objectivity until the Palestinian people obtain their legal rights. The proud Egyptian people, the complicity of the international conditions imposed great economic challenges in Egypt that we wouldn't stand before them unless for what the Egyptians have achieved in the past few years, as the Egyptians constructed a very strong basis that will help us to overcome the current challenges. Allow me to tell you with total honesty that God wanted for this generation in Egypt to take the responsibility of the country on their shoulders and move mountains of dangers and difficulties. I'm sure that this holy mission that we all should bear its responsibility will remain an honor that the history will document for everyone who bear anything for this country. I'm fully confident that Egypt will, God willing, be strong with the sacrifices and perseverance of their people who raised the time to achieve their dreams, especially with their belief in their right and the right of their country in a better future where they can obtain the position that Egypt deserves between the different nations. At the conclusion, I'd like to reiterate my congratulations to the police authority on their anniversary and praise its heroic role in protecting the citizens and maintaining their security. I'd like to stress again that Egypt, with all its powers and capabilities, is working on achieving security with its inclusive concept. Every national big project where the Egyptian young people exert their efforts is a security for Egypt from poverty and need. In reconstruction in the desert to make it green heavens and paradise is still a security for Egypt from the dangers of the future. Every hospital is built, every school is constructed, every factory and the roads paved is protection and security for the citizens, providing a decent life for the citizens and their children is our role and responsibility, asking Almighty God to guide us all to fulfill this responsibility for the interest of this country and its people. Thank you. And long live Egypt. I have finished the written part or the prepared part that we are keen on preparing for in these occasions, but there is another part in which I talk from the depth of my heart with all the Egyptians. A few days ago we were discussing and I said that maintaining the security and the future of any country is not the responsibility of the government solely or the leadership only, but it's the responsibility of all the people. All the Egyptian citizens are responsible for the security, stability and progress of Egypt. I'm saying this in a very critical and tough time. As you can see, the whole region is in very difficult conditions. Not only this region, but the whole world is in a very difficult situation, witnessing many turmoils, especially in this area. And with the situation in Gaza Strip, we discussed this in October in the graduation ceremony of the academy officers. 4 months later, now, we are discussing the same topic. Do these 4 months, were these 4 months easy for us in Egypt? We had the COVID crisis, then the Russian crisis, and now the current crisis that we started to be affected with. In addition to the navigation in the Red Sea, this is another crisis that will be affected by. Let me tell you something. As an Egyptian, just like you, don't ever think that I do not understand the amount of the suffering at the economic level in Egypt. I really appreciate that, and I do appreciate more the strength of the Egyptian people. This is not just words. I know that life is difficult and the prices are high, but let me tell you, may God have wanted us to witness very tough scenes. Today we are talking about more than 25,000 of martyrs civilians, two-thirds of them from children and women in Gaza Strip, more than 60,000 injured people, a whole destruction for the Strip. Why am I saying this? What do I recall? I'm trying to stress the fact that we are facing tough conditions on our western borders, on our eastern borders, and in the south borders also. Don't think that all these things do not affect us or our economy. On the contrary, every event has repercussions. The movie you've just seen on the events of 25th of January, it discusses difficulties faced by the state during these tough times and the people who escape from prisons. But do not forget that among these things, there was an attempt to make the public opinion against the state. They made a situation of we and you, which means that the people are in a place and the government is in another place. The people in a place and the Ministry of Interior Affairs in another place. This means that the public opinion will have a negative role to be against and motivated against the different state agencies until the people do what they did in 2011. What happened for the police, not only breaking the prisons and the people who escaped from prisons. No, it was not just that, like that. We spent more than 2 years to reconstruct the relationship between the people and the state, especially the Ministry of Interior Affairs, which was not easy at all. It required having programs, support, and patience. Why am I saying that now? Because we should always be united in one line, in one position. We should be like one mass. Any challenge or difficulty that we face, we can overcome them if we're together. Otherwise, they will cause lots of problems in our country, like what we witnessed in January 25th, when we turned into we and you. There's nothing like we and you. We're all one. A while ago, before joining the audience, I was talking about, and I said, do you know what does it mean to lose more than $450 million in the events of 2011? Do you know what does it mean to face terrorism and with a cost of more than 120 billion Egyptian pounds? We're not a rich country. Our resources cannot bear up with such shocks. Our country cannot take such shocks because we do not have enough resources to be wasted in that way, that we had no other option. We had to face the terrorism for almost 10 years. It was the only way to face it. Otherwise, the country would have never been stable, would have witnessed aggression, explosions, and acts of violence everywhere. But thanks to God, we were able to overcome this with the sacrifices. There's a difference between just reading the word sacrifices, the sacrifices of policemen, the sacrifices of armed forces, and the sacrifices of the different categories of the society, and saying, do not forget, when we have just honored 4 of the families of the martyrs, that this is a very expensive price incurred by Egypt to maintain its peace and security and safety. The money spent in this context don't they affect us? Look, we have one crisis in the economy. Let me seize this opportunity while we're together here to say that in the national dialogue that was launched 2 years ago, we had a great opportunity to discuss many topics, political, economic, and social, and even security topics. But I'd like to reiterate that we will launch another dialogue. We said that the national dialogue will never stop, and the Board of Trustees will be responsible for its continuity because of the vitality it achieved over the period that the dialogue was convened. But now I'm talking about the fact that we need to have a deeper dialogue regarding the economy. Why am I saying this? I hear a lot of the economic analysts in the different TV channels or read what they write in the newspapers, but let me tell you something. There's a great difference between saying an opinion and implementing that opinion. It's a huge difference. Implement it with people, with public opinion, with the state. Many conditions should be taken into consideration. I was just talking about this, and I said that. We're told by many economists that we need to have a great decrease in our economy and stop all the projects. From an economic perspective, it's a good point of view. No one can say anything about it. But let's put in front of it not another point of view, and I always repeat this. We are employing like 5 or 6 million citizens. Tell me, you as Egyptians, we are all in one boat. Should I close this project, what would I give them? 500 pounds? 1,000 Egyptian pounds in the month? Which means that I will have to pay like 60 billion Egyptian pounds per year. While the people who are working in the state make more money. But everything is expensive. Yes, expensive. But we are all able to live. We still can live. If we can bear up, we will live. We will grow and overcome this problem. The dollar we're discussing all the time. There's a vision introduced by the government a few days ago, and the media discussed it. The dollar used to represent an issue for us every couple of years here in Egypt. That's because the Egyptian state, the thing is not only about the expenditure in the past few years or in our war against terrorism, but also we provide services and we sell it to people in Egyptian pounds, but I have to get these services in dollars. Let me give you an example and remember these numbers so you can imagine the amount of the support we have to provide for the idea or for the path we're taking. Let's not forget that number. We buy basic commodities with $1 billion per month, like wheat, oil, and all the basic commodities. But I'm selling it to people in Egyptian pounds. The same applies to fuel. And please, the Minister of Oil should correct me. This has nothing to do with the number produced by Egypt. It's another $1 billion monthly. What else? Today, electricity plants consume gas. Kindly, Dr. Shakir, correct me if I'm wrong. It's over $1 billion. So a total of $3 billion per month. I have to provide them because they are basic commodities and services. I'm trying to explain the size of the challenge that we have been living even before 2011. these numbers, if the Egyptian state, with all its calibers, work on making our resources in dollar more than or equal our expenditure in dollar. This means importing tourism, Suez Canal. If our resources in dollar are not more or equal to our expenditure, we will keep suffering from this problem. This is the core of the problem. If you're saying that the government has to correct the situation, especially in the markets, yes, that's right, you can say that. This is what I'm telling myself before even telling it to the government and the Ministry of Interior Affairs. But we're talking about Egyptian citizens at the end of the day. If me, as a citizen, gains a lot of money and I'm able to trade or to have a commerce of billions of Egyptian pounds in basic commodities like wheat and maize, I believe that they need to have enough profit, but I will not tell them sacrifice for Egypt, but just have reasonable profit. States do not operate that way. They do not operate based on begging. Actually, states operate on policies and work. Does this crisis have solutions? Yes, of course. But all the solutions depend on all of us. Let me tell you something. We used to buy cars with $4.5 billion in a year, and more than $2 billion we used to spend them to buy mobile phones. You go to the central bank, I want to open an account in order to get these commodities. But we're talking about a country with 106 million citizens. Everything should be provided to them. So why am I saying that? This is in order to record my respect to the Egyptians. I swear to God, I'd like to record my appreciation and respect to the Egyptian people, especially the limited income or poor citizens, before anyone else, especially in these current conditions. I take several rides in the car and I meet many people. None of those poor people said anything other than, may God help you and help us. May God help you and help us. Why am I saying that? Because Egypt is not only my responsibility or the responsibility of the government alone. Egypt is the responsibility of you all Egyptians, young and older ones, the young and the old citizens. Everything can be easy. Literally everything can be easy, except for our country. Everything can be tolerated, except for our country. Want we eat? No, we eat actually. Want we drink? No, we drink actually. Everything goes. Life goes on. Some of them are expensive. No problem. God gave us a live example of people who cannot provide them with food. We cannot supply them with food. We're talking about basic food, some wheat, some oil to just bake some bread for 4 months. By the way, in the past, the amount of the tractors, of the lorries entering Gaza were 600 daily. But in the current conditions, we barely entered 3 days ago like 300 lorries. How do these people live Why am I saying that? Because there was a lot of talking about that Egypt is the reason. This is not true. Let me tell you that. Where would I hide from God if I'm the reason for that? If I'm the reason for not supplying bread to Gaza, where would I hide from God? Rafah crossing point is open 24/7, 30 days ago, but the procedures taking place from the other side in Israel in order to enter these supplies cause these problems. This is a form of pressure over the Strip and its residents. They use it as a form of pressure on the residents in order to release their prisoners. I'm saying this to record that in Egypt you need to be sure, without anything, without any statement from any ministry or any authority, we do not do this. This is not our policy. Once again, everything can be tolerated, but Egypt and its security and safety should remain. All what we suffered, thanks to God and God only, thanks to God who sees and hears us, will end. Thank you so much. Wishing you a blessing anniversary. May God protect our country from any evil thing and be sufficient with the generosity of God. Thank you so much.